to IOX YouTube channels on our research tips. So today we'll be looking at how to review literature, which is usually be the chapter 2 for any research. So literature review, which is usually the chapter 2 for any research. Now under the literature review, we have three components that is essential for literature review, which the first component is to review the concepts, which we know as conceptual review. Then the second thing under it is theoretical review. Then after the theoretical review, we have the empirical review. Although this depends on your school and your department. This depends on your school and your department. So we have, I said it depends on, it varies according to your department or your school. So for some school, prefer dealing with theoretical review before conceptual review, before empirical review. But I'm explaining in general concepts now that your chapter 2 is basically your conceptual review. Then the other one is your theoretical review. Then the other important component here is your empirical review. The empirical review. Now, what do you need to review here? When we are dealing with the literature review, we want to review the other work or the other concepts or the theory that other scholars have done on that particular topic before. That's what we are talking about review. Review is talking about we are checking on the existing work. Now, when we are dealing with the conceptual review, in your topic, you need to explain the concepts that's involved in your topic in a general context. In a general context, in the sense that anybody that does not belong to your field will be able to understand the concept of what your topic is. And the idea behind the conceptual review is the idea of explaining your dependent variable, independent variable, including your control variable. So the trend of your literature review is coming directly from your chapter 1. The independent variable you introduced to us in your background of the study chapter 1, you need to explain them in a wider sense. Even though your independent variable, let's use this topic as an example. I'm working on this topic where the topic is determinants of customer loyalty in e-commerce platform. If you look at it, you can see the topic clearly. They said in your literature review, start with introduction. Then introduction is, look at this part of the study review the necessary or sufficient literature that is concerned with the determinant of customer loyalty in e-commerce platform. Now, customer loyalty is a concept of the soul. So you need to explain your dependent variable concept. In this case now, customer loyalty is a concept, is my dependent variable. Then I need to explain it. I need to define it. That's what we mean by conceptual review. You explain the concepts. You explain the variables that are involved, like you are giving definition, like making reference to it, what other scholars have, the way or how other scholars have defined that particular concept. Customer loyalty. You give us the definition. E-commerce is a concept involved in your topic. You explain it. Then determinants. Those are the independent variable that we have. What are the determinants? What are the factors that influence what we call customer loyalty? What are the determinants? Now let's move on to what these determinants is talking about here. Now the conceptual review here is explaining the concept of e-commerce. So you need to explain the concept of e-commerce in your variable in the sense that people that does not understand what e-commerce means will be able to understand that e-commerce refers to a digital enabling business transaction. Now, by this, it has let us know that e-commerce is an electronic environment using internet technology. So this one is explaining e-commerce to us now. Yeah, everybody that does not know what e-commerce means, under your conceptual review, we're able to know. Assuming, let's say, somebody that in the realm of medical science or a pure science that might not know what we mean by e-commerce, but going through your work, when you get to conceptual review, they believe that you are going to explain all the necessary concepts there. Now here, let me repeat myself. I said the literature review, which is usually the chapter 2 of your projects. We have three elements. The first element is the conceptual review. The second one is the theoretical review. And the third one is the empirical review. The concept there is just like you want to give a definition or you want to give a broad meaning to your variable involved in your topic. Now, I'm now using this topic as an example. The topic I'm using as an example is determinant of customer loyalty in e-commerce platform. Customer loyalty is a concept on its own that we need to explain. E-commerce platform is a concept on its own that we need to explain. Then the determinants of customer loyalty that serve as my independent variable, I need to explain them. For instance, customer satisfaction is a determinant of customer loyalty. Is one of the determinants. If you satisfy your customer, they are likely to be loyal to you or to patronize you time to time. You will explain that concept. Payment system. If the payment, there is a minimal of error in the sense of making payments, the customer will be more likely to patronize you time to time. Let's go through what I'm saying. In this paper now, we have explained what we call e-commerce. That is, we explained definition. The concept we mean there is just give definitions to it. We explain definition, then define it according to how different scholars see it. Now, here they are even explaining the components or the type of e-commerce or the classification of e-commerce that we have. You can see that we have business to business e-commerce, we have business to consumer e-commerce, we have business to government e-commerce. An ordinary person that are not in the realm of management might not understand this. But the essence of the conceptual review is to make everybody understand the concepts in your paper, regardless the profession, regardless the field that the person is coming from. So now, customer to business, all these things are conceptual review. Now, the importance of e-commerce, we are still explaining the concept to us. Let's look at other variable that you need to examine the concepts. So let's move on. Payment system challenges. This is another concept, and these are referred to the independent variable that are there. Because the concept that you need to be reviewing to us too must relate to your topic. It's not that you just it's like now we are dealing with e-commerce platform, and you are going in line to be explaining what we call choice of courses. How does choice of courses related to e-commerce platform? So whatever you want to review is going to be your dependent variable in a broad explanation, in a broad definition, and make reference to it. Your independent variable in a broad explanation and in a broad definition and make reference to it. Then we believe that your independent variable will definitely be more than one. Some people have 4 independent variable and 1 dependent variable. For the case of this topic now, I think we have about 4 independent variable. Logistic and delivery service is an independent variable. That is, logistic and delivery service can determine how customer will be loyal to your business or to your e-commerce platform. Like Jumia, if they are able to deliver to you on time at a stipulated date and they don't disappoint you, you tend to patronize them more, and that's what we call customer loyalty. So what I'm saying in short in conceptual review is to explain in details the dependent variable and the independent variable in terms of definition, just like you are attaching dictionary meaning to your variables. You are attaching dictionary meaning to your variable. You can see now, logistic and delivery service, they are explaining it. They will give you the definition of logistic and delivery service to make everybody to understand what this concept is talking about. Then we also have, you can see that we have payment system efficiency is a variable in my topic. You can see we have customer satisfaction is a variable in my topic. So I will need customer loyalty, which is the main dependent variable that we are looking at. That is, customer loyalty depends on all these variables. I've explained my independent variable. Now I'm now explaining my dependent variable now, which is customer loyalty. Now see the definition. It said customer loyalty is in e-commerce refers to enduring preference and repeat engagement of customer with a particular online platform, despite the availability of alternative. That is definition. But here in concept, we want you to express yourself in a broad concept. Now let's go up back. This is my dependent variable. I've explained it in terms of conceptual review. My independent variable is customer satisfaction, which is I'm explaining here. Then let's move on. Payment system efficiency is my independent variable, which I'm going to explain the concepts of payment system efficiency. Some people don't even know the meaning of payment system. But when they are checking your work, they will now look at, okay, what do you mean by payment system? They will now have to go back to your chapter 2, which is where you have your literature review, where they expect you to explain all the concepts in detail so that even a layman or an average education person will be able to understand what you are talking about. So let's quickly move on. That's what the conceptual review is all about. Then the other thing is theoretical review. Like I'll explain, whenever you want to work on a project or you want to work on a research paper, always request for a guideline, because some school they like conceptual review to come from first, then theory will come second, and empirical will be the third. Some schools and some departments prefer the theory should come first before conceptual review, before empirical review. It depends on the guideline. So before you start working on your chapters, you kindly request for the guideline or from your senior work how the outline of the chapter 2 or the literature review is going to be. Although even some departments or some courses, or according to some lecturer, your chapter 2 might not be your literature review. Some can be background to the study. It depends on your supervisor, it depends on your school, and it depends on your department. So now let's move on to theoretical review. Kindly note what I said earlier. Let's move to theoretical review. For every study, I repeat, for every study, there will always be a theory that's underpinning or that the study is working with. I'm looking at how I can put this. In a pure science, we have law, we have theory, we have law of motion. So in that field of study for a pure science, their own theory simply means their own law. Now, if you look at economics, we have law, we have theory of demand. So that means in economics field of study, we have theory of demand, theory of utility, theory of consumer behavior. Do you understand what I'm saying? So for every field, they have their own theory. Philosophy have their own theory, sociology have their own theory. So whatever the topic you are working on, definitely there'll be a theory that we explain more, a theory that will tell you that if this happens, this will be the result. So for every research paper or project that you are doing, there will always be what we call theory that will underpin that topic that we explain it better. Okay, let's look at this one now. Now here we are under the theoretical review. Now the theory that underpins this topic is technological acceptance model. Now, technological acceptance model is telling us the invention of ICT. Don't forget that e-commerce platform is an element or subject under invention of or introduction of ICT. If there's no ICT, we will not have something like e-commerce platform. And that is what technological acceptance model theory is talking about. So whatever theory you want to review, note this again. Whatever theory you want to review in your research, make sure that that theory, you review a theory that is explaining your dependent variable and a theory that is explaining your independent variable. So if there must be a theory that will be explaining both variables. If you only review a theory that will be explaining your dependent variable alone, you are not on the right track. So that means you have to review about 2 to 3 of maximum of 5 theories. Now that's the first theory in this paper. Let's look at another theory. You see, there's another theory. Diffusion of innovation theory, DOI theory. Now, the innovation diffusion theory was first introduced by Rogers in 1962. Now, here they will tell us what the theory says. They said the theory was developed to explain how new idea, technology, and motivation spread through the society over time. Now, the ICT, e-commerce is a new technology, is a new adoption, is a new innovation rather, that bring out new idea. And before, there is nothing like e-commerce. What we have when we are in the previous olden days or before, when you want to define your market, you say market can be defined as a place. But now market is no more a place. Market is a point where that transaction can take place anywhere. And the theory behind that is the diffusion innovation theory. That is the essence of e-commerce and ICT now make market to take place anywhere. It does not mean it's going to be a place. And that is the theory that back that thing up. So it's a theory. Then let's move to I'm looking all this theory I'm explaining is the theory that underpin the invention of e-commerce. We have that externality theory, network externality theory. I want to look for a theory that will be explaining my independent variable. Now look at this service quality model. Service quality model theory is not underpin the e-commerce now. It's explaining to us customer satisfaction. It's explaining the independent variable. That is, if there is a good quality service, then customer tends to patronize you often and often in the place of alternative. Where there is still alternative, they will still come and patronize you. So these are the theories. You look for the theories. There is no much. Don't let us waste time. Then let's move to empirical review. You can see this is another theory, customer satisfaction model, which is explaining the independent variable. So what I'm saying is your theoretical review must be able to explain your dependent variable, and you must review a theory that will be able to explain or underpin your dependent variable. So let's move on. Let's move to what we call the empirical review. The empirical review usually be 2.3. Your conceptual review usually be 2.1. Your theoretical review usually be 2.2, and your empirical review usually be 2.3. It now depends on your department or your schools or whatever the guideline says. Some guidelines might tell you to add summary of the literature to it, but the main component that you need in your literature review is your empirical, your conceptual, and your theoretical. And as I always said, always request for the guideline or the outline. Now, empirical review are subdivided into 3 stages. When you want to review, and when we talk about empirical review, that means you want to review a paper of different scholars that have worked on the same topic that you are doing currently, or that have worked on the topic that is closely related to your topic. You now want to review their paper. Review their paper in the sense that these are the elements that you must review. You must know their methodology, the methodology that they used. You must know the population of the study. You must examine the sample of the study. You must examine the results of the analysis and what are their recommendations. What is the result? Do they get a positive result in their own, or some get negative results? Do they get does their results implies that all these determinants influence customer loyalties or not? What kind of method do they use to carry out their own analysis? Do they use questionnaire? Do they use secondary data? These are what is going to be in your empirical review, and you will reference it by stating the year and the name of the author of the paper. Look at this one now, the empirical review of developed country. So we are looking at the one of developed country now. We are looking at Ahmed 2021 in United Kingdom. So look at Ahmed now. Ahmed conducts a quantitative survey of 450 UK online shoppers. That's what I'm telling you. 450 UK online shoppers. That can be my sample. Then what are now the interface? What are the exploring users interface? Like is looking this person independent variable now, system security, personalized recommendation. Now look at Ahmed findings. They said their findings. Ahmed reviewed that site usability, safety of online transaction, and tailored suggested significance increase customer satisfaction and loyalty. Now that is the findings for Ahmed. Now let's look at, and don't forget that this research is carried out in developed country. Yes, developed countries. Look at Lean in 2023 China. What is the survey? 516 Chinese consumers. That's why I said you will have to state your population, or even if you don't state the population, state the sample. State the sample, state the results, state the recommendation, state the method of analysis. You understand? So that's why we're talking about you review each paper, and this is going to help you when you get to your own methodology to know which right methodology approach you need to use. Are you supposed to use qualitative or quantitative? Are you supposed to use primary or secondary data? Are you supposed to use correlation or regression analysis? This aspect is going to help you a lot to determine that, the aspect of empirical review. So that is that. But I want you to know that the empirical review have three subdivisions, which is you review papers from developed countries, you review paper for developing countries, and you review, these are developing countries now. I can't call this name, I'm sorry. I can see Wato from Pakistan, no problem. Oman, that's another country. Indonesia, they are regarded as developing. Now, African countries, you go down to African countries, you can see we have Antiwi Ghana, from Ghana, which make a survey of 403 Ghanaians e-commerce. So please try to understand and digest what I'm saying. So that is that about literature review, and I'll have to summarize what I've been saying since that. Under your literature review, you have three components and elements that have to be in your chapter 2, which is literature review, which the conceptual review that is explaining both your dependent and independent variable in a broad context, even when there's, if you have type. Let's look at someone that's looking at monetary policy and inflation rates. You need to explain what monetary policy is under conceptual review. You need to explain the type of monetary policy that we have under conceptual review. You need to explain what inflation means. You need to explain the type of inflation we have. You need to explain the importance of the policy. You understand? That is the concept, just like a definition. Then you look at the theory that underpin them. You get. So let's move on. So let me quickly view this topic 2. This topic is also chapter 2 literature review. This one is not different. This is, this is for social science stuff. You can see that the topic, they said this chapter review a relevant literature on influence of parents on the course choices of students in tertiary institutions. Influence of parents on the course choices. So here now, you need to explain the concept of course choices. What do you mean by course choices? You see now, if you go to 2.11, you will see we have course choices in tertiary institution represents one of the most critical academic decisions that students make during their educational journey. So by this, people will understand what we mean by course choices in tertiary institution. Then parent influence is another concept. Parent influence is another concept you need to explain. And there are some factors that can make parents to decide which course that their children or their child have to do. You need to explain those factors too. The parent's academic background can be a factor that you need to explain under conceptual review. The financial background of the parents can be a factor. Let's go there. Let me see. The expectation of the parents can be a factor. Oh, I want my child to choose medicine and surgery because the expectation of the parents is high that, okay, if you can study this particular course, so these are the things you need to explain under the conceptual review. These are the things you need to explain under the conceptual review. Let's move on to, I don't want to waste much of our time. Let's move on to the theoretical review. You can see this parental aspiration and expectation. It's a concept that you need to explain that is closely related to what the topic is talking about. Let's move on. We have parental occupation and financial capability. I've explained that. So then we move on to theory. What are the theory? We have expectancy value theory. Yes, expectancy value theory. These are the theory that will be explaining the independent variable. These are the theory that will be explaining the independent variable. Then the empirical review, I've explained that to you in the other topic. Please, if there's anything you don't understand, you can drop your question for me in the comment section. I will definitely enlighten you more about it. So thank you. You are welcome to our YouTube channel once again. Please kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel. That will encourage us to be doing more. Thank you.